So you're at the end of a year-and-a-half-long campaign, probably the longest we've ever seen in this state. Does this feel real yet that you're governor-elect?
Yes, I am incredibly excited and ready to get to work, and we have a very short time frame, so if it doesn't feel real, it better really quick.
And real, you now have 7 million constituents. Has that settled in, the responsibility of the job?
I mean, I always felt like I had the same number of constituents as Secretary of State, that I work for the whole state. But no, I am ready to get to work whether Arizonans supported me in this election or not. I'm going to be a governor for all Arizonans, and I'm ready to get to work on that.
We haven't heard publicly from Governor Doug Ducey yet about your election victory. Has he spoken to you at all?
He has called me. He was very congratulatory and gracious, and is ready to work with my team on a seamless transition.
So is that underway right now, the transition? Because as you said, you don't have much time here.
Right, yeah. No, we're definitely working. You'll see some announcements from us soon.
And who else have you spoken to since the victory?
Former Governor Brewer, Governor Napolitano, a whole bunch of people that we have reached out to for the transition team. That will be in a future announcement, so I won't say those names right now. But yeah, and then just a lot of folks are obviously reaching out, congratulating, wanting to help, wanting to be a part of things.
What did Jan Brewer tell you?
She was very congratulatory and offered to be a resource, which I will take her up on. She worked with a legislature that was somewhat hostile to her at times.
But it was a Republican legislature.
It was. It was.
And so you're also not going to be driving, you have security now. I just met them this morning. And you're not going to be driving a car for the next 4 years, maybe more.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't driven for a while because of security. We had just private security, now state security, so.
You don't have much time before the inauguration, 6 weeks or so. Is that just a frenzied period where you're going to have to appoint department heads and name key staff? And can you be sure you're going to get it right?
I can be sure that we're going to be thorough, and that we make sure folks that we bring on board are focused on their roles as public servants, that they serve the citizens of Arizona, and that we're going to have an inclusive and accountable and transparent administration. We might not have everyone named by January 2nd, but we're going to have made a really good start.
You get to appoint all new department heads. Are there any agencies that you think need urgent attention right now?
We are in the process of looking at the state agencies and who's there, and figuring out who we want to continue to stay. I think there are some agencies that are obviously more critical than others, but we are going to make sure that we're bringing in the right folks for the jobs.
How about DHS, for example? Is that one of the more urgent agencies, public health?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think DHS, corrections, and I'm not sitting here saying we're replacing everyone. We're going to talk to folks that are there and see how we can move forward.
Has Carrie Lake or anybody with her campaign contacted you?
No.
If Carrie Lake called you, would you take that call?
Absolutely.
Why? There was so much hostility during the campaign directed at you. Does that linger at all?
I won this race. I'm ready to get to work for the people of Arizona, and one of the urgent things in front of us is how we bring people together. Things are so divided right now, and if she were to call and offer support or congratulations, I think that's an important step to healing some of the division. During
the campaign, though, did that division get too sharp for you? You blamed Carrie Lake for spreading some of the dangerous rhetoric that led to death threats. Your husband was a target on social media. Do you hold that against her at all? Did it get that personal for you?
I think this is not just about her. It's an indicator of where we are in political discourse right now. It's unfortunately at a very divided place. She's part of that, but certainly not the whole of it. We have a long way to go to bring people together and move away from this divisiveness.
Was that one of the reasons you did not want to get on the debate stage with her? Just the level, just how personal it was getting?
Certainly that played into the decision to not do that. I mean, I didn't want to give a stage for her to continue to spew lies and that kind of personal attack.
You still have one significant task left as Secretary of State. That's to certify the election results on December 5th, just 2 weeks away. How do you respond to Republicans who are now claiming they were disenfranchised by the ballot printer problems at several vote centers? They say they were disenfranchised, and many of them are saying they want a redo.
Well, that's just not going to happen. The fact is that election officials across the state, whether it's Maricopa County, which is a huge county, or other smaller counties, are prepared for anything that could go wrong to go wrong. And there are backup plans and redundancies. Nobody who showed up to vote on Tuesday was not able to cast a ballot. And the issue was whether that ballot was tabulated on site or whether it was tabulated later in that batch of box 3 ballots. Nobody was not able to cast a ballot who showed up to vote on election day.
But how concerned are you about that equipment failure harming the perception of our elections?
Look, there was a backup plan to address the issues. I know that Maricopa County is looking into the equipment situation and addressing that. But the focus on this, mostly from Republicans, is to continue their game of sowing doubt in our elections. And it's simply not as big of a problem as they're making it out to be. The fact that there was a way for people to cast their ballot, regardless of this problem, and that Maricopa County is addressing the problem so it doesn't come up again, is what folks need to be able to have confidence in. And this is just part of their game plan of being able to say there was fraud or problems in the election.
And this is something you're likely going to have to deal with for the next 4 years, isn't it?
Yep.
What do you plan to do?
Well, what I've done as Secretary of State is continue to tell folks what the truth is, that the election wasn't stolen, Donald Trump didn't win, we certified accurate results, and continue to provide transparency into how we conduct safe and secure elections. I think Adrian Fontes is going to be a great partner in doing that. I don't think it's just elections that people have doubt in. There's divisiveness across the political spectrum, and people don't have confidence in a lot of our institutions, and it is incumbent upon leadership to provide transparency and accountability so that we can start to rebuild that trust.
I asked Adrian Fontes this question. He's going to be in charge of our elections beginning in January. And I'll ask the same question of you. Many are saying the state and the country are now safe for democracy. Democracy won. Was this a win, or is democracy just safer right now?
I think democracy is safer. And I think not just in Arizona, but across the country, a strong message has been sent to election deniers and the people who want to continue to attack the most fundamental core of our democracy. A strong message was sent, and I'm hopeful that that is the start of making sure that our democracy is indeed intact.
Let's turn to governing now. Check off 2 or 3 of the top issues you want to tackle on day one.
Well, I've already said that on day one, I will call a special session to repeal the state's pre-Roe ban, the 1864 ban that criminalizes all abortion. That's, I know, in line with where the majority of Arizonans are in terms of making sure we have access to safe, legal abortion. But we have a lot of challenges to tackle, and we can't wait and just do one thing at a time. So the things that I was focused on the campaign, I think are the things that we need urgent attention on, addressing rising costs for Arizonans, fixing our neglected public education system, leadership on our growing water crisis.
Let's go back to that special session, because I'm wondering if that's all for show. Do you really have the votes to repeal that Civil War era ban?
Look, the majority of Arizonans support access to safe legal abortion. And whether you're a legislator in a Republican district or a Democratic district, there is strong support for repealing this law. And if folks really want to learn the lessons from this last election, that Arizonans want bipartisan leadership to tackle these tough issues, protecting our fundamental freedoms is one of those. And if folks really want to represent their constituents, we should be able to come together on things like this.
So you have one vote majority, Republicans have one vote majorities in the Senate and the House. Do you think you can flip 2 members, Republican members, in both chambers
What I know is
to get
that
a majority?
What I know is that this is an issue that Arizonans care about. When we had that 2-week period that law was in effect, we saw all kinds of chaos, not just people who needed and had appointments for abortion, but other kinds of reproductive health care, or even health care that wasn't related to pregnancy, but medications that they weren't able to access. This law is not in line with what Arizonans need, and I would be hopeful that we could come together to recognize that.
So, but as we sit here, you can't say for sure that you can get a majority in both chambers to repeal it.
Right.
Okay. Have you spoken to the Speaker-elect, Ben Toma, on the Republican side, and the Senate President-elect, Warren Peterson, another Republican?
I was waiting for the leadership elections to conclude, and they are on my list to speak with, yes.
So people, let's go back to another major issue that's looming for the governor and the legislature, the spending cliff for schools.
Yep.
Right, schools were appropriated $1.6 billion or so they can't spend without action
Yes.
by the legislature. How are you going to get that done again with the legislative majorities that Republicans have?
I think that the aggregate expenditure limit, which is what you're referring to, is the most pressing issue in terms of investing in education right now. The legislature passed this $1 billion. I don't know why they would have passed it if they didn't want to allow schools to spend it. And right now there's uncertainty, and schools aren't able to budget. They'll have to lay off teachers and other critical staff if we don't suspend this limit again. And I hope to work with the legislature to take quick action on it early on in the session.
So you're going to have to be a deal maker with Republicans. You're also going to have to tell Democrats, no, we can't do that thing that you want to do. Janet Napolitano did that when she was in office. Can you do that?
Absolutely. I've already spoken to the 2 Democratic leaders, and they're ready to work in a bipartisan way on the issues that we're hearing from Arizonans they want our government to tackle. Affordability, education, water, to name a few.
Talk about the water issue. Does it help now to have a Democratic governor and 2 Democratic senators, given this is going to have to be worked out at the state and federal levels? Does it help to have all Democrats in that position to get the state where it needs to be with other states to protect Arizona's water?
You know, I don't think that water is a Democratic or Republican issue. I think both Kelly and Sinema have been really important voices in Washington for Arizona's water, securing billions of dollars for our water infrastructure. That was a really critical part of the Inflation Reduction Act. What I would be more focused on, instead of that it's all Democratic voices, is that we are aligned in terms of our priorities for water in Arizona.
Can you describe the urgency to viewers, voters right now about our water situation and what the feds have said, with a deadline looming a year from now, November 2023, about which they seem serious this time? How urgent is it that this legislature get something significant done beyond what Governor Ducey has done?
It is absolutely critical. I mean, the announcement that was made earlier in the fall about the Tier 2 shortages that really only impacted Arizona, that should be a cry for action, that we need to come together and figure this out so that we're not bearing the brunt of the Colorado River shortages. We need real leadership on this issue, and recognizing that it's not just a state issue, but all of the region is impacted by it.
But does what Governor Ducey has done, which he called, historic, does that get the state where it needs to be right now, or does a lot more?
It was absolutely historic, and it is, no pun intended here, but just a drop in the bucket of what needs to be done. I don't think we've been able to see the real numbers in terms of what it will cost to get our water infrastructure where it needs to be, to get the kinds of conservation projects off the ground that we need to be focused on. $1 billion was a drop in the bucket, and it's going to cost a lot more.
You might have to be more of a salesperson for your ideas than you were even during the campaign. And you were criticized during the campaign for not getting out there, by both Democrats and your Republican supporters, not getting out there, punching back, standing up publicly for what you believe in. Will we see a different Katie Hobbs as governor?
Look, I was punching back all the time, so I don't know where that criticism is coming from, but I think Arizonans heard what they needed to from me because they elected me as governor. But I am going to continue to fight for Arizonans. The issues that we've been talking about are issues that I'm hearing from all over the state, and they need someone who's going to fight for real solutions, and I am ready to do that.
How will you show them that you're fighting? Because that's what politics is all about these days, whether you like it or not.
Well, I think I did that by winning this race, and I'm going to continue to bring folks together. It's not always about fighting. It's sometimes about compromising so that we can solve these issues.
Do you feel a sense of vindication right now, given all the criticism that was sent your way by the media, by Democrats, by others?
I am just really thankful that the voters entrusted me with this incredibly important job. I'm ready to deliver for them and get to work.